Welcome back. I'm Natasha Sweatte, and it seems the Occupy movement has taken over just over every area in our lives, even New Year's. Brent Baccala is planning an Occupy New Year's speech for January 1st, and we sit down with him now to learn more. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Natasha. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, absolutely. And so tell us, I've heard about, Occupy the banks, Occupy the caucus, actually in Iowa now, and Occupy New Year's. So you're not protesting the actual holiday, are you?
No, it's just an opportunity to make a speech, make a statement. It's a Sunday, which is, as I think you mentioned in your earlier piece, an important part for me as a Christian. I always give most of my talks on Sundays. And it's a holiday. It's an opportunity to kind of ring in the new year and make a statement about Occupy not really going away, even though a lot of people are ready to write us off.
Okay, so give us a little bit of background on your affiliation with the Occupy protesting. So you actually started your Alaskan adventure in Juneau, then Fairbanks, and then Anchorage?
That's right. I arrived in Juneau in late July. By early September, I was making speeches on the Juneau waterfront. Around, I think, the 2nd of November, I flew to Fairbanks. There really isn't too much of an Occupy Juneau. I went to Fairbanks. I occupied for a month with the occupiers there, experienced 38 degrees below zero in a sleeping bag, and I've now come down to Anchorage and have been here since early December.
So did you kind of head start the movement up in Fairbanks?
No, it was well underway by the time I got there. They were already occupying a gazebo in Veteran Memorial Park there. And they had moved that, like they had started occupying at UAF and decided to move the site downtown where it was more visible, and it was. The gazebo is a better site. So they had already moved it. They already had an organization. They were, it was more when I showed up there, I'm just like, a couple of guys here out here in the cold, and I think they shouldn't be out here by themselves. I'll give them a hand. I
see. And then what was your reason for coming down to Anchorage?
Well, I have a friend of mine with an apartment here in Anchorage, so I don't have to sleep out in a sleeping bag at 38 degrees below zero. Yes, I came to Anchorage because it's so nice and warm here compared to Fairbanks.
It is, yes, most definitely.
But also, I wanted to see another Occupy, and, I do have a message that, it's hard to say. I don't believe in the leaderless model. I certainly I aspire to be a leader of the Occupy movement.
The leader?
I would say a leader. It's a leader. Think of me as an Occupy candidate. I'm like running for, I don't know, maybe I am running for chief occupier.
Well, as of right now, there is no one leader, correct?
Exactly. And some people talk about it being a leaderless movement, but I don't have that idea. I think leadership is very important. And I really think of myself as essentially a candidate for Occupy leadership.
And so can I ask you, is this your job? Do you have another job outside of the Occupy movement?
This is my main job right now. I run a website. I've been the webmaster of freesoft.org for 15 years. I was looking at doing some teaching here in, where are we? Not Juneau, not Fairbanks, Anchorage, yes. Doing some teaching here in Anchorage. I have teaching experience. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. My political, activities, affiliations, sometimes inhibit my ability to work with a school administration.
Why is that?
They don't necessarily want the students exposed to some of the messages. 15 years ago, I was involved with an anti-drug war campaign in the nation's capital, and it's all up on my website. The administration of the school that I was looking at teaching for, I'm not really sure if that's what they want the students to hear.
Interesting.
So.
Well, let's get to the main message of this whole Occupy movement, because a lot of people are confused. Some people think that it's just a bunch of hippies hanging out and not wanting to work. Some people think it's funny that capitalism is pretty much being protested when you see people out there with iPhones and whatnot. And I mean, we do live in the United States of America where capitalism thrives, and the argument is if you don't want to live here, go to Europe, go somewhere else. What do you hope to accomplish with this movement?
Well, in my speech on Sunday, I'm going to reference Tiananmen Square. I think there are some disturbing analogies there. They were occupying a public space. It was kind of disorganized and chaotic. The government put up with them for a while and then got rid of them. Our leaders have used SWAT teams instead of tanks, thankfully, but still, they said essentially, okay, we want to get rid of communism. And it's laughable. Of course you're not going to get rid of communism. So coming in here and saying we're going to get rid of capitalism, in a way it's kind of the same kind of laughable thing. But really, to me, it is a moral issue. It's a Christian moral issue. We're taught, give to all those who ask of you. Capitalism is immoral. It's,
Well, let's back up real quick. Immoral, you're saying that capitalism is immoral?
Yes.
Really?
How do you define the word capitalism? What does morality mean to you? Christ said, give to anyone who asks of you. So to me, that means if you go to my website, you can download anything on that site. There are no credit card.
You have to work. You have
interchange.
to work in order to make a living, and these people don't want to work, it seems.
Go to freesoft.org. Tell me if I don't want to work. I mean, we do work. We do produce things that are useful to society.
It's immoral to steal other people's money and think you're entitled to other people's money. You know, I mean, that could be an argument.
It's not about, of course, theft is immoral. We are also taught, thou shalt not steal. It's kind of the thief is told, the have-nots are told, thou shalt not steal. The haves are told, give to anyone who asks of you. They're flip sides of the same coin. It's about loving your neighbor, doing unto others.
Right. I don't think anyone would argue with you on loving your neighbor. And one other point I want to bring up, when you think of the Tea Party movement, how there weren't any arrests, there weren't any rapes, drugs affiliated with it, and it seems as though in these Occupy movements, people have been sexually assaulted, a lot of negative things happening. Why do you think this is actually coming about this way, if it is morally based?
I think, I'm not sure about the difference between the Tea Party and the Occupy movement, but I do think that when you start talking about protesting against the leadership, people just start coming out of the woodworks. Everyone who has a gripe is there. And we have Tea Partiers involved in Occupy, both here in Anchorage and also in Fairbanks. We have had Tea Partiers come around to our site and say that, we talk to us, that we support what you're doing. We have a militiaman involved in Fairbanks. So you have a broad spectrum of people, and that's why it kind of seems amorphous. Yeah, it's terrible when crime gets involved, but I guess anytime you have 7,000 people in some kind of an encampment.
Well, we're out of time, but thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate your insight.
Thanks, Natasha.
Time for a short break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.